Alrighty, let's take a look at this question. So we need to graph this, but without just putting it into a graphing calculator. So right now, the form it's in, really, we can't tell a lot. We know it's x squared, so the graph is going to be in the shape of a parabola, which could look like this, or it could look like this. How do we know which one? You look at that leading coefficient in front of x squared, and since it's positive, that means the graph is going to open upwards. Next thing we can find, fairly easy from this form of the equation, is the y-intercept. Because when we have a y-intercept, which is where the parabola would cross the y-axis, we know that the x-coordinate would equal 0. So you just take that equation and substitute 0 in for x, like that. And when you simplify that, you would get y equals -1, which means we have a y-intercept on our graph at 0 and -1. So this point here is going to be crossing is going to be the point on the y-axis. All right, now I think we're done with all the information we can get from that version of the equation. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 1, and we're going to put it into vertex form, or standard form sometimes it's called. So to do that, we're going to do the process of completing the square. So first, we can't have that 2 in front of the x squared when we do that, so we're going to factor it out, but only take it out of the 2x terms. So you have 2 brackets x squared plus 2x divided out of the 4x. Leave a little room, write the -1 on the outside of the brackets, and now we come up with that missing number, which would be the +2, the coefficient of x, divided by 2 and then squared. So 2 divided by 2 and then square that, we would have +1. Now, you can't just add 1 to the right-hand side of this equation. You have to take it away to keep things in balance. But that 1 is actually being multiplied by that 2 in front. So we would show multiplying by 2 on the outside there. So -1 times 2. All right, now our last step, we write that in sort of factored form. So x squared plus 2x plus 1, when you factor that, would factor into x plus 1 times x plus 1, or x plus 1 squared. Now the shortcut for that is you square root the first term, square root the last term, use the same sign as the middle. And yeah, that's how that goes. Now outside we have -1 minus 1 times 2. Do the multiplying first, so -1 times 2 is -2. And then -1 minus 2 would be -3 is the number we have on the outside when we simplify that. All right, we are in vertex form. So our vertex would be in here. The x-coordinate would be the opposite of what you see there, so -1. And the y-coordinate would be -3. So the vertex of this graph is at -1 and -3. And of course, I labeled that point just where I need to put that. So let's get rid of that. And so -1, I'll label it over here, that's better. Would be somewhere down here, let's say. We're going to call that -1, -3, and that is our vertex. Now we know the parabola opened upwards because our a is equal to a positive number, and it should look something like this, but it would be kind of nice to know a few more points on that graph. We could get one more point right away because the axis of symmetry, which runs through x equals -1, we know this point, the y-intercept, is only a distance of 1 away, because from 0 to -1, that's just 1, which means we have another point over here at the same height, so our y-coordinate would be -1, but the same distance away from the axis of symmetry, so that would have to be at -2. So we're at -2, 1 for another point. All right, we've got 3 points now on the graph. Our x-intercepts are not going to turn out to be nice points. So I think what we'll do to get, say, 2 more points, let's say we need 5 points or something, what we would do is just pick a value for x. And I would kind of like to know what this point here is, and I'm going to assume that that's at x equals 1. And I want to know the y coordinate. So at x equals 1, what you do is you take your original equation, y equals 2x squared plus 4x minus 1, and you replace x with 1, like that, and then you work out what that would be. So 1 squared is 1, times 2 is 2, plus 4 is going to be 6, minus 1 is 5. So we now know we have a point at 1, 5. And again, using the axis of symmetry, we would know that point, which would be 2 away from the axis of symmetry. We'd have another point over here, 2 away from the axes, so it'd be at -1 minus 2, so -3 for x, and the same y value, so -3, 5. And there we go. Now we have like 5 points on our graph, so that is looking pretty good. You could get more if you want. You just put another x value into your equation and you get the y value and you get another point. Alrighty, so there we go. There's a graph. Don't forget to label it on your graph, label the points if needed, and there is your final answer. All right, I hope that helped.